This is your World War III update. We have some very concerning developments with respect to the growing acrimony between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. As you know, by now, the timeline for the ultimatum has been accelerated. What was originally set to expire on September 3rd, which was a date that coincided, interestingly, with a meeting between Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping, one in which they were expected to ink a new strategic military partnership, which would likely. This is your World War III update. We have some very concerning developments by the Chinese for the first time officially, notwithstanding all the other stuff that is going on in the South China Sea with respect to the mobilization of military force by the United States in and around Taiwan, and numerous other data points that all seem to signify a flashpoint of hostilities emerging in September. Well, now that timeline has been interestingly accelerated. Yesterday, we told you that it has been bumped up to 10 to 12 days. Trump has confirmed today in an interview that, in fact, if Russia does not relent in its attacks against Ukraine in the next 10 days, then there will be an imposition of tariffs.
Imagine being able to build anything just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete AI creation platform made for anyone with an idea and a drive to bring it to life. Describe what you want and watch it take shape. You can plan, customize, and expand in any direction. From tools built for one to platforms ready for many. From passion projects to enterprise-grade systems. Everything is built in and ready to launch. It's a new world of creation where you can go as far as your imagination takes you. Can you imagine it? Let's make your dream a reality right now.
With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought
sanctions and something else. Now let's tease this apart. Tariffs against Russia are virtually meaningless because the U.S. and Russia don't really do much trade anymore. A little bit, but only the essential stuff. And they're working towards phasing that out. The tariffs generally apply to the Chinese, the BRICS nations, anybody who is buying Russian crude, now mostly on the black market. They would be tariffed across the board, generally 100%. That, of course, would cause a crash in the global markets. I can't see Trump really doing that. More importantly, people overlook this sanctions thing. The sanctions thing is important because if they were actually going to enforce it, then that would require an embargo of sorts. That embargo, should it take place in the Black Sea or the Baltic Sea, that has military repercussions. And that could be the casus belli Russia needs in order to do some sort of preemptive attack on NATO. If that's what Trump is talking about, not just another round of sanctions, but the actual manner in which the sanctions are enforced, that is significant. That could be the flashpoint that sets off a military kinetic engagement between East and West. However, I think the next two words that Trump stated are of greater significance. He said that within the next 10 days, if you do not relent in your attacks, tariffs, sanctions, and something else. What is this something else? Now, we know the Machiavellian stratagem typically employed by the West dictates that if they're saying 10 days, it very likely is going to be 8 days, or when this video is being released, for all we know. But they're very likely not going to be that transparent, especially if they're going to do something serious. Now, this something else, I presume, and many people are speculating, is going to be something in the form of more military support, more advanced offensive or defensive weaponry. Now, I've often stated, though, that defensive and offensive weaponry is a false dichotomy because a goalie is a member of the team all the same. Just as much, they're as essential as the guy who's shooting against the opposing side's net. And even if it is just the delivery of more Patriot systems and in an accelerated timeline, which is very concerning, and people should really focus on why is Trump suddenly gone from September 2nd to 10 days? Why would you rush something like that so quickly? What do they know that we don't? In light of the Starlink outage recently that, as predicted, they're chalking up to some sort of network update. Ooh, we give you faster speeds. Okay, sure. And the meeting today that we're going to talk about with the Roscosmos chief, the Russian space chief, arguably the most important guy in the Russian military orbit, is in the United States. Okay, you don't send an emissary like that to the United States, especially when the United States and the UK and the Ukrainian are trying to attack and kill all the Russian generals and high-ranking officials. Well, that's important because that smacks of nuclear deconfliction, okay? But with respect to this or else statement, Patriot defense systems and multi-layered air defense establishing green zones effectively that are impervious to anything but the Kinzhal hypersonics and maybe, the things that Russia doesn't have a lot of, like the Orezhniks. Well, that is going to be the umbrella in which NATO uses to send in troops. Because think about it, if NATO officially sends in troops and the families of said troops, they're not talking about sheep dip covert ops, they're talking about actual troops, and they immediately get destroyed by the Russians, well, that's going to be a total PR disaster. So that's why you need to bring in air defense. This is why Russia is not dismissing the importance of Patriot batteries. This is why it was so important when they first delivered those Patriot systems in the first place, because it entailed a certain degree of interoperability with NATO and provides a shield for and a cover for the deployment of ground forces into Ukraine. All right. More importantly, on the offensive front, this could mean the delivery of longer-range weapon systems like the JASSM's air-to-surface missile systems for the F-16s or the Tomahawk missiles, which of course could be a delivery platform for nuclear weapons. A very serious escalation if that in fact is the case. It could be a lot of things. It could just be the opening up of the ISR, of Starlink, to allow Ukraine to do more targeted strikes deeper inside Russia. It could be some planned decapitation strike. I mean, they're surrounding Russia all the way from the Arctic, Finland, Baltics, Poland, Romania, down to the Black Sea, Turkey. I mean, even in Kazakhstan now, the U.S. is striking a deal for rare earth materials, and there's a military defensive component to that as well that the Russians are not going to think too highly of, considering that that's where their biggest spaceport is located. Okay, so the Russians are being squeezed. The noose is tightening, and now we have 10 days, which really means we have less than 10 days. All right, and now you have the space chief of Roscosmos in the United States as we speak. So you have the Russian space chief flying there, while U.S. nuclear weapons are literally flying on planes to the UK, so that they have a formidable aviational component of their nuclear triad. And you have all this controversy with Zelensky. I tell you, something isn't right with this timeline. Why would they be rushing it so much? You know what I'm saying? Now, Trump struck a deal with the EU so that they're going to be buying all kinds of gas and oil, and that's really what this is about, the $750 billion, cutting Russia out of that market, nuking Nord Stream. Well, now it could entail the imposition of an actual embargo on Russian crude and their shadow fleet in the Baltic Sea, which most certainly would be a casus belli, and they could use the justification of Kaliningrad disrupting, using GPS interference and things of that nature, and acting as a